What's up, everybody? It's Mike here from The Art of Guitar, here with another artist series lesson. It's been a little while since the last one, but I've been working hard, getting the play-along tracks going, learning all these new techniques from these artists. And I just wanted to do a video on John Mayer. A long time ago when his first album came out, I think it was his first album, called Room for Squares, I believe. I picked it up because I heard him play on Conan, and he was playing No Such Thing, and I thought it was a really different sounding song, and he had a lot of energy on stage. I thought that was pretty cool. So I bought his album, and the album was really great. There's some really cool guitar moments, and it caught my ear right away. But I kind of wrote it off as like a poppy rock type thing, so I just ended up giving it to my girlfriend at the time. And she never gave it back, even though I asked for it later, because we went and saw him in concert, and he ended up doing a 20-minute blues jam just right in the middle of his set, and I thought that was pretty cool because there was all these teenage girls there waiting for him to play Your Body is a Wonderland or something, and he didn't care. He just went off and did his Stevie Ray Vaughan licks, his Jimi Hendrix stuff, and I really think he has a good culmination of a lot of great artists. So I wanted to do a video on him, and hopefully you can learn a lot from it. I know I did just from studying his techniques. So right off the bat, knowing one of his biggest influences, Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan as well, we have the thumb over technique, and a lot of people have trouble with this technique, I'm finding out. But the good thing is you don't always have to use that in a chord situation. You know how we replace the bar chord with what I call the Jimi Hendrix bar chord? That's where we do this right here, 3, 2, 1 on the strings, 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string in this case. And then we bring our thumb over the top to hit this A note right here, and that's going to be our root note. So what I like to do is I like to touch the next string, the 5th string, with my thumb just a little bit, just to kind of kill it. And then I get this sound. What's good about that version of the chord is you can use your pinky to alter it a bit. So you could add like a sus chord sound, you could do a 6 sound, you could do an add 9. All that's available because your pinky is free when it's not when you do this version of the bar chord. But when he's playing the song Belief, which is a really cool tune, good message actually, what we're going to do is we're going to bring our thumb over the top and we're going to establish the D note. So you're just going to go like this at first. And that's it. This is why I said not to fret, pardon the pun, if you can't do the full bar chord, because check it out. So if you just take your ring finger and bring it to the 5th string, 12th fret, see how the thumb doesn't necessarily have to be there when the ring finger gets there? At least in this case, check this out. Then you switch. Put your ring finger here, take your 1st finger and put it on the 3rd string, 10th fret. And you get this really cool, I love that sound, it's a really cool 6 sound. So you get this. And then he brings it down to the 10th fret and the 9th fret on the same strings you were just on. So you get this cool. See how the thumb gets out of the way when I do that? If you left it on, it'd be a little bit strange for people that have trouble with their thumb over the top. So don't worry, okay? All right, so check this out. Then he moves all the way down to the G, which is really cool. See how you're just using it? Basically like you would use an index finger, just your thumb. And then you go to the next set of 6th intervals. Now remember, I'm not here to teach you the song, I'm just here to teach you the technique, or kind of teach you the technique, just give you a quick primer like I said. But I just want to show you how effective that is, just moving your thumb around and then playing a riff over the top of it. Of course, locking in with the groove with funk strumming is an amazing feeling when you really get it down. And when he started to do this, and Who Did You Think I Was, I really loved the feel of it right off the bat. And I figured out that it's actually kind of a tough riff to play, and I don't do it exactly right, but the feeling is what I'm going for, and it's this feel, where you get this kind of, that sort of thing. I sort of go back to Purple Haze. I get that feeling when I play Purple Haze. Feels like I'm really strumming and catching the beat in a really cool way. So slow, it goes like this. The hardest part is this 8th fret reach. That's kind of a strange thing to reach down to that C and then have to come up. At first I thought it was wrong in the tab, but then I watched him live and I saw him do that. So you get this sort of thing. It's sort of like that funk strumming I taught for the Prince thing. Of course you can hear Jimi Hendrix in that as well. And it's where I like to mute my strings with my left hand and then just start strumming and doing the funk thing. Because if you can get that feel down first, then you just add the right notes and it all comes together. So I think the only difference, one thing he does is he adds an E right there. I just don't do that. It doesn't really, I don't know why I wasn't able to make that work yet. So I just sort of like funk strum right over that. But that's the detail if you really want to do this right. See, I can get it in there, but I just can't make it work with the rhythm quite yet, but I'll keep practicing that. All right, I found this really cool track called Blues Intro. I don't know if that's the official title, but he does some really cool stuff. It's kind of bebop-y sounding, you know, it's that upbeat blues sound. And what I loved about it is that he just took a motif that he came up with and basically built a 1-4-5 progression around it. And I really love the way blues guitar players do the 12-bar blues, because sometimes it's not as obvious as playing full chords. They'll just take little tiny chords and make them work. So check this out. That sound right there. And that's basically just the 4th string 8th fret, 3rd string 9th fret, 2nd string 8th fret. And we're hammering on to that 9th fret with the middle finger. What that is just part of a C dominant 7 chord, but it's played in a very interesting way. Because who wants to play big chunky chords all the time? Sometimes you just want little ones. Now if you add the little motif that he does and go like this, that's basically it. You get this. So you can do those little stabs. Does it again. Then, establishing a theme there, he goes to this chord. Some of you guys might know that as the F9 chord, but you can just play it like this, just a little part of it, which would be the 4th string 7th fret, 3rd string 8th fret, and 2nd string 8th fret. That's enough to establish that 9 sound. Without the root, it's still pretty cool. And then back to it. Okay, then what I like to do in this scenario is when I go to the G7, I would go to the 5th string, 10th fret, and I would create the first form dominant 7 shape. Even if I just play a part of it, I'm still going to make the full chord in this case because it feels just super easy in this case. From that, then to the F9, back to the little tiny version of the C7. John Mayer's got great rhythm, of course. We're going to study this in a couple more techniques down when it comes to funky strumming. But you can't discount his rhythm playing and his finger picking when it comes to rhythm. Songs like Neon are pretty incredible. You know, just you have to tune down to C, which is kind of different. I'll just do this really quick, just the first part. You might think, well, why don't you tune the other strings down? But in this particular case, he just tunes the C down, or the E down to C, and goes with it. So if you take the beginning of Neon, you could see his rhythm mastery just in his right hand finger picking. Check this out. Isn't that crazy? When I first started learning this, it took me forever just to get the right hand to do that. His rhythm playing translates to chord arpeggios as well. So he does this really cool thing in the song called Why Georgia, where he goes. I'm pretty sure John Mayer's really good at slap bass. I could just kind of tell by the way he plays guitar. It's not really slapping what I'm doing here, but it's got the fundamentals of that same idea. So you got this. That slap in the guitar kind of gives it away there. And it acts as like a snare drum, so you really get the feel of it. So thumb acts as a kick drum. The finger slaps and the hits end up like being snare drums. So it's kind of cool. It's like you're a one-man band type thing. There's a lot of times that a student will ask me, how do I follow the changes when they go to another chord? And in a blues scenario, you know, you have the 1, the 4, and the 5. If you're going from the 5 to the 4, sometimes you feel like you're just sort of playing one shape over the top of all of that and hoping for the best. I mean, over time you can get really good and have certain licks that you go to. This is one where you actually can move with the changes, and I love that feeling. So let's say we're in some sort of A blues thing, and you just played A minor pentatonic like crazy, you did all your tricks, you got a lot of feel out of it, hopefully. When it comes to the E to the D, you know, the walk down, whatever it is. It's fun to actually break out of this position and do some movement. So here's something that John did that's really cool. He slides up and he goes like this. So first of all, hopefully that makes sense to you guys. It's from the 4th form major shape. I do a lot of cage system type stuff. So if you don't understand it, once again, it's on the website. All right, so you get this. So that just follows the chord exactly. So you can't go wrong there. All chord tones. Then, because of guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan and John Mayer, I'm starting to use my ring finger a little bit more. The old me would have done this, but I'm doing this. It's actually almost necessary for some of these riffs. You'll see why later, okay? So we're going to do a pull-off now, 2nd string 15 to 12. So that's D to B. Then the classic move, we're going to go to the 3rd string 15th fret. We're going to hit it, slide back 1 fret, pull off to the 12th fret. And then we can resolve it by coming down here to the 4th string 14th fret. So we can go like this. Now you probably guessed it, that was for the E. If we go to the 4 chord, the D, we end up doing this. See, with the ring finger instead of the pinky, doing that slide brings you right into position. So I'm no longer a hater of using the ring finger for a lot of this stuff. And then you just do that for the 5 and the 4, then you end up back home. Let's check this out. You're back to the A after that. Now I kind of did this in the last take, but I really love the feeling of little shapes that have a lot of effect, a lot of impact, I should say. And in blues, it's really fun to do the old minor third to major third trick. So if you're in A, it's an A7, and you're just playing some rhythm stuff. Well, try this out one time. Let's bar across the 2nd and 3rd strings at the 5th fret, and we're going to just hammer on to the 3rd string 6th fret while barring across. So you get this. From the side view, you see how flat my first finger is? And then I'm hammering down like this. Okay. After that, we're going to reach down to the 4th string, 7th fret, and we're going to hit the root note. So you get this nice little roundness to it. Okay, we're not done yet. Now we're going to take our ring finger and lay it flat across the 2nd and 3rd strings again, but this time at the 7th fret. And you get that sound. So it's so far. And then you can go back to the original thing, the original hammer on, and then end off on the root note. So you end up with this. You've probably heard that in a lot of different songs. There's an extreme song that actually goes like that. I think it's called Wholehearted, if I remember right. Anyway, doing that is a great way to really get a good rhythm in the blues world. So you could be like this. See what I did? I just brought it up to D, so now I'm up here. And then, of course, coming back and finishing it up with the E. When I'm doing something that I feel is pretty stock, let's say I'm doing something in C. Now, what I did at the end there is something I saw John Mayer do plenty of times, and it's where you're pulling off, let's say in this minor pentatonic shape. This is going to be, once again, the trusty 4th form. And it's very typical to go like this. Okay? Because what you're doing is you're just pulling off onto the root note right there. But sometimes it's cool to add the 6th interval. So in this case, it would be the 7th fret of the 4th string. And it kind of adds an interesting sound over what you're already expecting. Like you're expecting it to go. But if you drop down here real quick, it's a little bit of a twist. Now you don't want to sit on that forever if they're on the root note because you get the 6th sound, which is actually pretty cool, but it might not be the truest sound that you're going for at the time. So I use it for a really quick variation just to keep things interesting. All right, you can't teach John Mayer without teaching the backwards rake. And there's 2 of these that we're going to do in this series, but I want to start you off a little bit easier. Not that rakes are easy, 'cause sometimes they feel out of control. But what we're going to do is we're going to go up here, we're going to stay in this C blues idea, and I want you to bend the 3rd string 10th fret up a whole step. What we're going to do after that is we're going to jump to the 1st string 8th fret. And we're going to go 8th fret, 8th fret, 8th fret. And if you guys have watched a lot of my videos, you know about the finger rolls that you have to do as a guitar player, or anybody's videos would teach this. But it's the biddle-doo. Actually, it's 4, I'm sorry. Diddle-doo, if you want to do a backwards rake on 3 strings. And it's basically sweep picking, you know. If you took your pick and just went click, 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 that's what's going on. And you want a little bit of abrasiveness. You want it to be... It's like... Okay, if it was too smooth, it would lose its effect. Bring that pick up, roll your finger, and end up here a few times. Then add the bend in the beginning of it, and then do the rake. It's weird, it's hard for me to do a rake and end here without doing my weird vibrato thing. Just happens naturally now, it's very strange. So you can see the effectiveness of that. What I call it is it adds a little bit of traction to your solo. If your solo is a little too slick, sometimes it's very forgettable. But if you really get in there and start to add traction, it stays with people, stays with you. So I love Stevie Ray Vaughan, you know, he's over there. That's traction. Another highly sought after ability is the ability to switch scales as you're soloing. And a really fun way to do that is, let's say we're in G blues here. And typically you're going to be doing stuff, you know, like we were just talking about with that hammering on kind of circle stuff. The rakes. We're already putting it together. But sometimes you feel like, man, I've been in this shape for a long time. I need to get out a little bit. It's kind of like when you're practicing in your room for 8 hours, hopefully, and you just got to like go outside for a second, breathe some fresh air, or do something. You kind of feel trapped a little bit when you're in this box, and you want to get out. So actually, there's another box waiting for you, but we're not going to go to the one that's normally next to it. Some of you guys might be expecting, you know, the Albert King box. What we're going to do is we're actually going to turn this pentatonic shape, minor pentatonic. Of course, I'm doing the blues scale too, into the major pentatonic. So to do that, it's a lot of fun. You just go here, and it creates this cool shape. You go to the 4th, you go from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret. That's G to A. Slide up to the B. So there's your major 3rd, which is not in the minor pentatonic, so that's new. And then we're going to come over to here to the 5th string, 5th fret, 7th fret, and then you could go to the 4th string, 5th fret, and 7th fret as well. So I just said we're getting out of one box to go to the other. This is almost literally a box. Look at that, 5-7, 5-7, 5-7. The way John Mayer uses this is he'll go somewhere in here, but he'll jump right back to the comfort zone. So he goes. That sound great? So let's say you're here, and you just want to do something kind of different. We'll come up here. It's a cool positive way to start off a scale. If you guys know your 9 chords, these are a lot of fun. Let's say we're in D, and we wanted to do the old D9 chord. The great thing you could do off of a 9 chord, this is really slick to add to a blues situation. You have this ring finger barring across 3 strings, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings, let's say in this case at the 5th fret. Well, try sliding all 3 of those to the 7th frets and then back. So that feels a little weird at first, your ring finger is covering a lot of space. But you gotta get used to that feeling. Because check this out, if you're doing D9, probably heard that before in a blues situation. Well, here you have the full chord. So if you just hit the low bass note a few times, and then do the, it's a nice complement to that chord. And it brings you a little bit out and then back and resolves. So you could do that at different chords, obviously. You could do an E9, D9, and then back home to A9. However you want to play your A9. All right, let's tie a couple of these techniques together. We already did the rake, but we're going to do an extended rake now. And this is a really cool lick that I saw him do in a couple tunes. And let's just consider it back in C right here. We're going to bar across the 8th frets for 2nd string. And what I want you to do is a little Hendrix hammer on here. And we're going to go to the 10th fret of the 2nd string while barring across with this first finger. You get this. It's the Hendrix hammer. After that, what I want you to do is I want you to do a really intense rake like this. You notice this time, instead of going 8th fret to 8th fret to 8th fret and stopping, I went down to the 10th fret as well. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to do the old, remember that circular riff pattern we did where we barred across and then hammer down? So we're putting things together now, but we're going to call it a new technique because it does form its own thing, and towards the end you'll see. So we have the Hendrix hammer, the rake down, back up, another hammer, and now when we rake again, so it's like double rakes here, we're gonna rake only by hitting this 3rd string 8th fret, going right to back to the 10th fret on the 4th string. We're gonna do a pull off to the 8th fret of that string as well, and then we're gonna end up down here on the 10th fret of the 5th string. So that's got to be pretty fast to really work because it has to keep up with all this other action going on. So you have to get used to going rake right to a pull off and then end up on the 5th string. Very strange. You just want to do that a few times. Pretty soon it becomes part of the rake. It's kind of cool. So real slow, you get this. Isn't that cool? All that traction I was talking about earlier. To piggyback off of the double rake, we're going to add the flat 5. It sounds fat. We're going to do this Stevie Ray Vaughan thing. That's pretty common, but it does add a little bit of a change to the sound. We're going to go to the 5th string. We're still in that C blues sound. We're going to be on the 8th fret. We're going to hammer on the 9th fret really quick. And then we're going to drop down to the 6th string, 11th fret. And then we're going to end up here on the root note, which is going to be the 6th string, 8th fret, C. So you get this. It's cool to throw in that flat 5. Remember, if you're talking minor pentatonic, it's the flat of the 5. So here's the 5, here's the flat 5, which creates the blues scale. So if you use that as a quick little hammer-on pull-off, it's a cool way to decorate the sound, as opposed to, which is a little too optimistic sounding sometimes. If you put those things all together now, you get the hammer-on, the Hendrix hammer here, the rake, the other hammer-on, the pull-off technique, and then add this. I just added the octave at the end. I thought it sounded cool. I thought only Jimmy Page was brave enough to pull this off, but I heard John Mayer do it. And what it is, it's a 2-step bend, and some of you guys might be like, that's not a big deal. But it is when you're playing and you actually have to bend in a certain situation. It could be feel a little bit extreme, and you might feel like you're going to break your string or something. But it adds such a cool sound, you want to go for it once in a while, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to go to the 2nd string, 15th fret. We're going to hit that, D, and we're actually going to bend it up 2 steps. John Mayer does this in a really cool way. We're just going to do this in the E blues type situation. Now, whole step is 2 frets. 2 steps, that's confusing, is 4 frets. So we got to aim all the way up to that note, okay? It's pretty intense. We have that big of a jump with our bend. And that's literally the farthest I can bend on this guitar, at least. I feel like the string just stops right there. So it's good. Two-step bends are probably the highest I'm going to have to bend. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to incorporate that as we're playing. So go for this lick. I'm just doing like a pull-off type lick. Isn't that a more intense sound than just doing a whole step bend? I mean, whole step bends are great, but you just get that extra feel when you do that. A better tune. So you can't really play Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, John Mayer without having an awesome trill. And remember, a trill is just where you play a note and you hammer on and pull off over and over and over again. What we're going to do today is just a slow trill just to get you guys going, and I want you to try to do it for a straight minute. And then you could play with the speed, but the most important thing is to get a decent sound by pulling off the string. So I call it a pluck off. So you don't have to go much faster than that for now. But you see, there's a lot going on when I do a trill. It's not just a trill. I'm touching, with my first finger, I'm touching the third string, the second string, and the first string to kill it from making sound. Otherwise you're trilling and all this noise is happening. You don't want that. My thumb sometimes comes over the top. Once again, the thumb has to come over just to touch the E string to kill it, and then the first finger can also touch the fifth string above it. It's left hand muting mastery, which I like to teach a lot. So let's just mute everything first, make sure it's all dead, except for the note that you want. So I played all 6 strings and only one note came through. Now I'm ready to trill. Now that's a fretted trill. You can also do an open trill. I had to include this as part of a technique because it's such a fun rhythm technique to use. Satriani does this really well. You know, he does a lot of pull-offs type stuff. And the sound of pulling to an open string has always been good sounding to my ear. I've always thought it really adds to the feel when you're playing. And when I listen to John Mayer doing some of his riffs, I notice he likes to incorporate that too sometimes. There's one in particular where he's going like this. Now it's not that straight actually. I was playing it more straightforward. He puts a little bit of a swing to it, which is actually more interesting. Okay, that's just the first part. Then he goes to G. Sounds great, and it's actually a lot of fun to play these kind of riffs. Every time I sit down and just start jamming, I seem to always go to these pull-offs. It's not always lead-based too. It's not always that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's in the rhythms as well. It's Motley Crue done in a swing feel, I guess. All right, guys, it's okay to go crazy on your slides. When you're looking at some John Mayer sheet music, you'll see lines going up and down, up and down. You're like, when is this guy picking? Well, take a scale. You know, we talked about how to fake your way through a solo in one of our YouTube videos. And if you find the key notes on a string, you could just keep playing, especially if you have good sustain on your guitar. Let's say if you hit a note and you're playing, let's say, A minor, and you're just going like... The technique behind that is to give it enough velocity so that it keeps the note happening. And you're not always picking between the slides, so sometimes the note starts dying. So instead of pulling off, like some people want to do to keep a note alive, sometimes you have to really give it a quick slide, and that's enough to propel it forward. So I kept thinking the note was going to die, but then I would just give it a good push, and next thing I know, there's some sustain left in it. It's like milking a note for all it has. So let's take that fourth form idea again. And what we're going to do is we're going to bar across the first 2 strings at the 3rd fret. We're going to do what I call the Hendrix hammer. Remember from before, we just hammer down on the 5th fret of the 2nd string. And instead of just staying there, we're going to actually pull off right away. So you get this cool little flutter. I like to call them a flutter. Watch what we do from there. All right, so I just end up here on the 3rd string, 5th fret. It adds a little bit of tension because that's not a chord tone. So you're left with this kind of unsettled feeling until you do the very next one. Now, drop your middle finger here on the 3rd string, 4th fret, and we're going to go like this now. So all I did, because my first finger is still back here on the 2nd string, 3rd fret, I'm just hitting those 2 first. Hammering down on the 3rd string, 5th fret, fluttering back to the middle finger, and then we're going to end up here on the 4th string, 5th fret, which is the root note G. So real slow, you get this. is we're going to hit a harmonic. That's the best way to hold out a note without having to do any work. After you do the harmonic, it lives on. So it's not like you have to keep a note fretted down, so it's really nice. Now what we get to do is we get to reach behind the nut. Here's the nut right here. And we're going to take whatever string we just played on, and we're going to push it into the guitar, creating like a bending sound. The first time I ever did this was for Iron Man, the first time I played it. You know, the old... I'm going to stab myself. Careful, because these might come back to haunt you. Ow. So when I first did this for Iron Man, you hit the low E string and you push on it. Let's check it out from this angle. Then you get the robot voice. So let's go back to the John Mayer situation now. We're going to play it on the 2nd string or the 3rd string. We're going to do the 12th fret harmonic, natural harmonic. Does that sound cool? I just found out that I have enough space right here on my guitar behind the nut to go up a step and a half. So that's very helpful to know. I just learned that. Sounds kind of like a theremin or something. That's cool. Or a slide, actually, too. One thing I noticed he likes to do is volume swells. It's fun because you get sort of a nice swelling effect into it. You could do that in clean sound and sound like a cello. Check this out. Kind of cool. But if you add a little bit of overdrive and incorporate some pull-offs, this is what I saw him do one time. You do a volume swell, pull-off. It's really easy to do on a Strat because the volume's right here. Sometimes that can be bad because you can accidentally hit it while you're playing. But it's nice when you want to do swells because boom, it's right there for you. And the better you get, you can actually pick and swell. You know how you've got your Satriani legato and you've got your John Mayer legato. So his is very pentatonic based, at least the legato that I've seen him do. And it's not pure legato, I wouldn't call it like that. Like, you know, when you're just constantly going with your left hand and not picking very much. He likes to do pretty interesting hammer-on pull-offs in the pentatonic scale legato type sounds. So he'll go something like... And I was showing you this in the Hendrix video about just kind of like ramping down after a lick, but he'll just keep going with it. So I'll see him do stuff like... So I picked a little bit, but you can see the left hand's doing almost all the work, creating that legato sound. Sometimes a lick will keep coming back through different artists, and I'm like, I gotta learn how to do that someday. That's pretty cool. Usually it ends up being kind of a simple idea. I just never bothered to figure it out, but I finally was able to with John Mayer. And here's what I love. This is where that ring finger becomes very important. So it's a 6 pattern. So here's what we have. So the hard part is this pull-off. When you're using these 3 fingers, it just feels awkward at first. So practice first, and then come right back to the beginning. Alright guys, it was a lot of fun showing you some John Mayer techniques. Like I said before, love him or hate him. Some people have really strong opinions about the guy, but you can't deny that his guitar playing is amazing and that you can learn a lot from it just because he's a culmination of so many great artists and he adds a lot of his own stuff too. So at least with his techniques, I really get a lot of it out of his stuff, and hopefully you guys got a lot out of this video to help you out. Remember to check out theartofguitar.com to learn all the intricacies about all the techniques. Here I'm just showing you techniques, but on the website I like to explain why things work and the theory behind it so that you can use it in your own situations. So, all right, we'll catch you guys soon. Thanks a lot.